Fantastic. Well, we're at the 3 minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because we've probably got a lot to get through today. So, just want to introduce first of all the session. So today's session is going to be, chatting with Jen about her career journey. Let me just kind of move some things around on my screen here really quick. So, I will let Jen do proper introduction for herself, but she's a production coordinator at Paramount within Paramount and MTV. She works on, shows including Daily Show and Jersey Shore and, MTV Documentary Films or has worked. She's had 9 years of experience in production management and live stream producing, and she's also worked on things like Rachael Ray, Worst Cooks in America, and others. So I will let her do the full, self-introduction in a moment here. Just really quick, who am I? So I'm the CEO of Artbound Initiative. We're an internship program for all sorts of different creative industries, but um, you know, as it aligns with this, aspiring film and TV producers, designers, or content creators. And we've placed over 1,000 interns through our program within the creative industries. And then a little bit of a breakdown of how today's session will go. Um, First, we'll just talk about Jen's career journey. And then second, we'll talk about Outbound Initiative and how you can land some internship opportunities in film or TV. And then we'll leave most of the session, at least half of this session, hopefully for open Q&A. So as we go through, discussing with Jen, I love it. If you have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat or save them for, a little bit later on. But definitely, get the questions started. Anything that you have about um, Jen's career, about film and TV industry in general, about advice for yourself. That's what this session is all about. It's like more like an open Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing screen here and let Jen introduce herself. Jen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, to just expand a little bit on my introduction, I'm currently with Paramount TV Studios with a scripted series. So I did work on The Daily Show and Jersey Shore Teen Mom, and I love those shows. But my current slate is some legacy Showtime shows, so Dexter, Yellow Jackets, um, Emily in Paris, and then some of the legacy Paramount network shows. So like Taylor Sheridan Universe, Yellowstone, Mayor of Kingstown, Lioness, lots of anything that Taylor's written, basically. And now we're kind of integrating now into Skydance. So now our slate includes, Reacher and Cross and Foundation and all those shows. So it's really cool to kind of be a part of the merger and kind of see, what that entails. And yeah, I can go into more detail about like what I'm doing now, but I'll leave it up to you, Benjamin, like the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll get to kind of what you're doing now. I think as a start, I would love to just kind of hear a little bit of an overview of your career journey and how you got into your current role. And then maybe a little bit more detail of what your role actually entails so we can separate those into two pieces. Um,
Okay.
so maybe start first with a little bit about your role specifically and what it entails, and then we'll talk about how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So as a coordinator in physical production, what my job is to kind of like branch and be a liaison between the production companies who are like producing the TV shows and the network and like the level of standards and procedures and also resources that we can provide to the production companies. So we're kind of like that first step of like when a show gets greenlit, we're the ones like opening up the writer's room and making sure that they have all the resources that they need to kind of get into that creative process. And, production management is always like, has to do with the nitty-gritty details. So, like, even just taking the writer's room, for example, like, we're making sure that they have the programs that they need, they have, rentals that they need, getting that room physically set up, and making sure that they can do the best job. And then onboarding the production team, and I'm in like lockstep with the production coordinator of the show. and onboarding them, making sure that they have all the resources that they need to produce the show, connecting them with all the internal departments, with like the legal team, finance, standards and practices, clearance lawyers, and pretty much anyone who would need to have like an overview of anything. If a department needs to review scripts, so making sure that they're getting them, or if they're in contact with a script coordinator who's sending them out. Um, it's pretty much just like being a part of the show through every step of the way, like before production, during shooting, and then afterwards, making sure that they're giving us what we need as like a finished, product all wrapped up in a bow. Um, and yeah, that's kind of it. It's a lot of different things, but I like to view it as kind of like project managing the series, because I need to keep track of like where each series is in their production status, whether it's, starting up or finishing up.
So you get involved at the very beginning, like right after the show has been approved. Then you're getting looped in and starting to get involved on the show. Is that correct?
Yes, and I guess to add to that, sometimes we'll be involved even a little bit before. So even before the powers that be are greenlighting a series, we might have an idea that it's going to get greenlit. So then, I'm working with um, the production executive who's assigned to the show to like, help draft budgets and kind of, you know, be like, I want to say like second pair of eyes, maybe like a third pair of eyes in like seeing the line by line of the budget for these shows, which is really cool. Um, I like that because I'm like into the nitty gritty line by line budgets, but
Well, and what types of skill sets do you think are like really crucial for the job that you have? Are you somebody who's like really organized, like A type, you've got everything like totally planned out, or is it that you're kind of working all over the place with different types of people, and so you need to have a lot of people skills? Like, what are the types of things that you think make somebody successful in the role that you have?
it's definitely being organized, just because there's so many things happening with all these different shows. And even just having to keep track of like who is actually the production coordinator on each of these shows. And I'm usually assigned to like 10 shows at a time. And each of those shows has a different production coordinator, different script coordinator, and all these people that I need to like keep track of. So it's definitely being organized. And I think another part to that is being adaptable, because things will change at the drop of a hat, and we just have to like be ready to be ready. If there's like a show that they think is going to get greenlit, we're doing all this prep work, and then suddenly it's killed, and it's like, oh, okay, like we're done with that, but I have to go prep for like another show. So it's just, um, being organized, but being adaptable too, because things could change at the drop of a hat.
And how do you organize all the different types of things that you're probably overseeing? I'm sure there's just so much. I was just about to ask the same question as just asked here. So, there's so much, there's so many moving pieces from the sound of it, from what you explained, working on 10 different shows and with all the different aspects that you're working on. How do you keep yourself organized? Is it like, just curious, is Paramount still on Excel spreadsheets, or, do you have better tools,
Oh,
to manage all the different moving pieces?
yeah, we do use Excel sheets. We mostly use
I
like
figured nothing beats
like three.
Excel. Uh,
I know. We do use Airtable too, which I love a lot. There's a lot you could do with Airtable, especially if, me and the other coordinators are tracking like all these different aspects of these different shows for different reasons. It could be, we have to pull info for like an OSHA report or something, and we need to know like when it shot and how many local crew were on, how many average hours did they work, and that kind of stuff. So it's good for keeping all of that, and then also being able to output an interface that's like easy to understand for our like production executives, so they could just kind of glance at it and see like the important info. But I mentioned being adaptable before, because this is a corporation, and sometimes they like to use different tools, and I've spent the last couple of years learning Airtable, and now they want to switch over to something called Showrunner. So it's like being able to teach yourself how to use these programs is super important too, because all this time and energy has gone into like this one production project management tool, and now we have to like switch gears and try to have everybody on the team learn how to use another one.
Right.
It's just, being able to to
Comes
do
with territory, right? You're like, okay, let's go. Yeah, I need to switch things. So, at what point did you feel like this was something that you would be good at, or at what point did you realize that this type of role existed? And do you feel like you found the thing, like one of the things I should say, because life is not about one thing, but like, do you feel like you found one of the things that you feel really good at, or are you still learning? You're still trying to figure out kind of is this the right role for you? Like, how did you get to that understanding?
I do think it is, because I can see myself kind of moving up where I am into that kind of production executive role. Like I mentioned, I love working with budgets, and it's almost like a giant puzzle, that you have to like, be able to pull apart and put back together. But I also really like the aspect of production management where you're working with a lot of different teams and a lot of different people. I kind of originally was more interested in post-production, and then once I had an internship, I kind of realized, and no offense to post-production, but I just realized I didn't want to sit in a room for like 12 to 14 hours and staring at a computer screen. I liked being out and about and on set. So I really do like, the different production teams and getting to know them and developing those relationships. And yeah, I definitely like the mix of both, where it's like production management, but I can also kind of be like a project manager, which
Yeah.
I really enjoy.
And what percentage of your work would you say is on-set work, and what percentage would you say is like all admin, all prep, computer work, like in office, type of deal? Yeah.
So right now this role is like 98% in the office, but I do get to go to set, which is really cool. So like last year I went to the set of Dexter Resurrection, and I'll probably go again because now we're starting the next season, so I'm excited for that.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's kind of like I get to go to set, but I don't need to work from set.
Yeah. Hopefully you can go to the set of Emily in Paris and take a little trip with them.
No, I don't think I meet the I don't think I meet the requirements to be able to go, but maybe one day.
Can you tell us a little bit about like how you got into the role that you're in now? Now that we have a better understanding of your role, like what were the steps? What was your career path like a little bit?
Sure. So I actually have, I don't want to sound like a Nepo baby, but I do have a connection to like my grandfather kind of like started this legacy where he was an HVAC repair person, and he had a friend who kind of was like, hey, you'd be really good at, being like a video engineer. So he kind of like pulled him in, and then that got like my dad and my uncles, like everyone kind of got involved with being utility, so like on the crew side. Um, and I kind of wanted to go production management, not just to do something different, but like I knew from a very young age that like I wanted to be working in TV, just because, I mean, if you're like younger and you're take your daughter to work days like being on set, like I don't think I don't think I was meant to do anything different. I think it was just written in the stars. But I did want to do production management because I kind of felt like I was able to like go my own route and like carve my own path. So I started with, an internship at the Rachael Ray Show, which shot in Chelsea in New York City. And I was there for 6 years. So I started as an unpaid intern. They asked me to come back in the next semester. I was paid, and I was very happy about that. At the time, I was working like a bunch of different jobs just to kind of like pay my way through college. So I did 2 years at a community college, and then I decided to go for, Montclair State University TV program. So I applied for that and got in. So I did the internship in my last semester, and then, I was there for 6 years after that, and I kind of moved up. So I was like field PA, where I got to work on all the shoots that happened outside of the studio. That was kind of like my first exposure to being able to see what happens from like the concept of the shoot, how to make a call sheet to like what equipment do we need to bring on this shoot, to shoot it, and then how to like how the production post-production team takes that footage, cuts it real quick, and then it's like ready to go for like tomorrow's show. And then I kind of moved up on the studio side to production coordinator. I was also a travel coordinator in between, for one season. Um, and that was interesting just because I had to learn how to talk to celebrities. I had to greet them and like make sure their car was ready for them after the show. Um, I consider myself an introvert, so that was like when I when I first found out that that was part of the job. I was like, oh, okay, like we're doing this, we're figuring it out. The part that I liked about travel coordinating was like the detail oriented part of like booking travel and making the travel memos, having to be really sure. Um, and then, sorry, to go back to production coordinator, that was when I was in charge of the internship program. So I had to learn how to read resumes, interview um, potential interns. We had about 10 interns and 4 PAs per semester. So it was kind of part of the job was learning how to manage the office, the studio, delegate tasks to the interns and the PAs, and pretty much just be available for anything that came up. If the line producer had to figure out how to make the next show work because the guest was late, like we had to just kind of like get that information and then scramble and delegate and try to just figure out, how to make it work. And then after that, I became a webcast producer. Um, so it got to a point where I was a little burnt out from being in the studio during COVID. And I decided that I wanted a career change a little bit. So I started looking for remote gigs. And that's where I kind of made a little bit of a switch to doing live events. And it was cool. I definitely had transferable skills from production that helped me a lot. Like learning how to talk to celebrities helped me with dealing with clients. And then also like my just general production experience helped me, you know, assist the clients in figuring out how they wanted their like run of show to go and how to make it happen. And then also I had a little bit of experience working with the tech manager at Rachael during COVID. So I feel like having that love of the technology and how to make that work helped me in this position as well. Um, and unfortunately, I was laid off from that position. This was back in 2022. Um, and I had reached out to some contacts while I was job searching, and that's how I found this current position. I wasn't sure if I wanted to take it more so because I had already decided like, oh, I really like project managing. I don't know if I want to go back to TV really. But after interviewing and kind of figuring out that it really kind of is project managing, it's just, with the TV shows, I was like, okay, I'm in. Um, and I've been there ever since. So it's 3.5 years now. Um, and yeah,
Amazing.
I really love it.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your journey because as Liv said, you're so real. I think it's good, to hear that, part of your connections were from connections that you had within your family because the reality is like that's every industry. Like if you have a connection, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to get your foot in, a lot easier. And so, we always stress like looking in your circle, like what friends do you know, what family friends do you have, what professors do you know that have connections, right? Like it doesn't have to be, that it was your direct immediate family member who works within the industry to have a connection in, but there's lots of different ways to get your foot in the door through people that maybe your family knows or maybe that your friends know. Um, and then hearing also kind of the different, navigating aspects of the job and how you were laid off and you had to come back in. I think it's interesting to hear that because um, at least I believe that most people have a perspective when they're entering their career, that it will be very linear. That I want to work in this particular field. I'm going to go to that particular field. It's going to be what I want it to be. Uh, and then everything is going to be success from there. Or if it is a success, it will be linear. And I don't think that that's true. I actually think that most of the successes the most successful careers come through a very meandering, broken path, with lots of different roadblocks in the way and different discoveries. And that's actually what makes us understand, oh, this career is really what I like because I tried all these other things. I had these experiences and I know that this is where I'll be successful. So happy to like hear that that happened with you. And I think that helps normalize some of the process, of navigating careers for a lot of students that are here. So I think just last question before I move on to, talking about ABI briefly, and then we'll come back to all the great questions that are here in the chat. What are some of the skill sets that you feel like have made you able to get into the job that you have now? Is it resilience? Is it just like, dealing with the different, challenges that you had along the way and making it through? Is it more a hard skill set like being able to project manage really, really well and, utilize certain tools? Or is it more like the way that you're able to get along with people? Like, what are the things that allow you to be successful? Um, if you could share something that maybe others here could pick up on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So it's definitely a little bit of everything you said, like being resilient, being determined, um, maybe having a thick skin at some points. I think the biggest, all right, adaptability also is a really good one too. And then I think a huge thing that's helped me and the thing that I look for as well when I'm, maybe taking like an intern or a PA under my wing is like curiosity, asking questions and being curious about the project, being curious about the bigger picture. Like, why am I asking you to go on a run for this? Or why do we do the call sheet this way? Or, whatever the case may be. And also like a curiosity for um, wherever you are getting your foot in the door, to be curious to the people that you're exposed to as well. Um, Something that I tried to take advantage of in, my mentors along the way is like um, kind of making it known what I'm interested in so that they could help me connect the dots with like different people on the production, on the set, or in the company. If I'm interested in like sitting with an editor for a day, like I was able to ask for that and make it known that I was interested in that. I didn't end up going into post-production, but like that time to ask questions was like super valuable. Um, and yeah, I think being curious is like
That's a good one.
a big thing.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I think that a lack of curiosity for a lot of juniors comes from a lot of different places. I think one of them is just insecurity about um preparedness for a role, and for a particular company, or uncertainty about that career path for them as they're trying to fill out different jobs and things like that. And I think that in order to combat that, a lot of people end up trying to be too confident within the role, to be like, oh, I know what I'm doing here. I'm going to do well. But I think that's actually can be a mistake. It's good to have some confidence, but at the end of the day, everybody expects a junior level role, or actually any level role, really, to be curious and learning and trying to think about, open about taking in different perspectives and about learning different softwares and people and processes. And the more you are that way, the more um, quickly you'll grow to like the role or know the role. And I think senior managers know that. So when they see that, like, oh, you're asking questions and you're curious and you're having this interested desire to learn, they want to feed into it, you know what I mean? And so you end up growing your career a little bit faster. Cool. I'm going to switch over just briefly to talk about our Bana initiative. So for those of you who are already in the program or went through the program or know the program, take a water break, take a minute for yourself. But I'm going to just speak quickly about who we are for those of you that don't know. Let me just come back to share my screen. So we're a global career accelerator for creatives. We're an internship program, but not just internship placement. We do so much more than that. And really our goal is to help, university students and recent graduates to get your foot in the door in the industry and also to be prepared with the skills to succeed. The skills that we're talking about now that can help you to stand out and not just get the internship, but also be successful in your next steps, towards building your career. To whatever level you'd like to bring that to. We have a lot of different destinations for internships that you can go to. So through our program, we help you secure internships in other destinations or where you are now if you're in one of these places. Within the US, you can do it in New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, or Austin. And then in Europe, London or Berlin. And then you could go to Melbourne or Sydney in Australia. Or you could do a virtual internship if you are not in one of these destinations and you don't want to travel. And that's totally fine too. We have a lot of virtual opportunities, especially within production or film, TV production, content production, and post-production. A lot of different internship types that we have. I'll let you kind of like take a glance at them while I'm speaking, but mostly what we will do during the program is when you enter, we're going to look at what are the right internship types that fit you based on your background, based on your studies, and based on what you want to do. And we're going to pick a couple of internship types that are your top choices and a couple that are your backups. And we'll do the same thing for destinations. So we might have like New York as your top choice and Chicago as your backup, for example, if you're open to multiple destinations. And then throughout the program, when we get to placing you with partner companies, we'll be working with you to get placement within your top choice internship types and destination first before going to any other backup. So you might say, I really want TV production, film production, content production, in New York, but I'm also okay with script development. I'm also okay with talent management, and I'm also okay with Chicago. So we'll look for those top things in New York first, and we have an 85 to 90% success rate in getting placements within primary choices of both internship type and destination. So you can feel pretty secure about, having your top choices there, as place to go. There's a few inclusions that you get within the program, and why I want to go through this is because it is a program that you pay for. We're like a course outside of your university, so it's important to know, whenever you're paying for something, just like university, what are you getting out of it, and making sure that you get the maximum out of it that you can. So a few things that you would receive in the program if you join. Number one is access to our ABI Academy. This is pre-internship. And it's like coaching and mentoring program where you're going to get support on your portfolio, your resume, your interview skills, and also prep for the industry. And this happens over the course of about 2 months. Part-time. It's definitely built for full-time students, so this is not something that will be full-time. It's all online. There are some scheduled sessions and there's some content to watch online as well. But the main purpose of this is to make sure that you are actually ready for the recruitment stage because we're going to be sending your profile out to our partner companies, and then that you are actually ready for the internship so that you can succeed really well in the internship and also represent us well so that you keep those doors open at those companies for the next batch of participants that want to come through and intern at those same places. Some of the coaches that we work with, as you can see, Jen is here, a coach for Art Bound Initiative. We also have Justin, who's working with Warner Brothers, and then on other industries, like Kevin is with Omnicom Group for design and branding. Michael is with Ralph Lauren for fashion. We have Jazz, who's director of global social media marketing at Shutterstock, and then Vanessa, who's a senior recruiter for a creative recruitment agency called Aquent. So, lots of this is just a sample of some of our coaches, but the point is that you're going to be receiving some feedback on your portfolio, your resume, and industry preparation from these types of professionals. Number two that you get in the program is a guaranteed internship placement. So internships are between 3 to 6 months long, and we do guarantee a placement. We cannot guarantee for you which company you're going to work for because what we do is we share your profile out to all of our partner companies, and then we push them for interviews, and then we continue the interview process and coaching you until you receive at least one offer. And many of our participants receive multiple offers so they can take a choice. So our guarantee to you is that it will be, within the internship types that you described, within the destinations, and within the and yes, within the destination, within the timeline. It could be part-time or full-time, can do it for credit or for experience. One thing, because we don't know which company will be hiring you, we can't guarantee a paid internship opportunity. And while we'd like to, this is something that you'll face whether you go through our Outbound Initiative or you go looking for an internship on your own. You will still face this challenge because that's a reality of the industry. But of course, we have a strong preference for paid internships when they are available, and we will always advise you to take them if you have an offer from that. And then many of our ABI participants end up getting hired post-internship within the companies that they worked within. So there's a good opportunity as well to have that be a possibility. Some of the company partners that we work with, just examples, Cadence Films in New York, Picture North in Chicago, OK Studio in Berlin, and Friends, which is a content production agency in London, Collider, which is a production studio in Sydney, and then Truce, which is a production company in Melbourne. So just some examples, we work with over 300 company partners, so there's many, many that we'll be sending a profile to if you go through. If you're going internationally, our program offers travel support, so that includes visa processing, insurance arrangements, optional housing arrangements that's available for you through third party, and then in-city orientation and support, with local creative scene. And then our team will provide dedicated support throughout. So you have a team that's helping you with onboarding into the program, going through the academy, making sure that your resume and portfolio is ready to go. You have a team that's helping you with the travel and the placement within the companies themselves and making sure that everything is secured and ready for you to go internationally or to go domestically. And then you have in-city coordinators who are there to do events, be there for emergency contact and also give that orientation. And then last but not least, you have access to our community of alumni, over 1,000 alumni, in the program as a whole. So, this is a place for you to connect with others. We also share job boards and other types of events as well. And you'll have lifetime access to our in-city events as well as this community. Some of our alumni have gone on to work, for some pretty impressive places. So I think it's important, just to see that an alumni network matters, and this is one of your kind of like foot in the door. If you choose to go through the program, is to connect with people who have been through. And then, as I mentioned, there's a tuition. So if you're doing our local or domestic program or virtual program, it's 2,250. If you're going international, it's 3,250. And that includes everything I talked about in the program, but it doesn't include third-party fees like your visa, your flights, your housing, things of that sort. It's just the program inclusions. And you'll be with us for 6 to 9 months in total from the time that you apply to the time that you end the internship. So we hope to just pack a lot of value in there for you and have you very happy with the experience that you've had overall. If you're coming from a financial needs-based background, you can apply for a grant. We now offer grants that are between $500 and up to the full program fee for local or virtual programs, depending on availability of those grants. You can apply on our website and then as part of the application process. And then how to apply. We do have our final application deadline, our very final application deadline upcoming for summer 2026 internships for US summer. So starting in June on February 10th. That's the last deadline that we have if you're thinking of doing anything for the summer. Even if you're just considering it at this stage, I recommend just go ahead and apply because there's no application fee. And you may be thinking like, I'm right in the beginning of the semester, I'm trying to get things started. We know that you're getting your semester started, if you're still in school, but we need to process your application now if you want to do something in the summer. So I recommend to just go ahead and apply if you're thinking about it. I'm going to share screen really quickly on how to do that, and then we'll get back to all the questions. So on our page, you can check your eligibility and talk to one of our team members here. But you can go to the application page, start your application, and just fill in everything here. And then just hit submit. So it's just loading at the moment, but nothing in your application is set in stone at the time of application, like the destinations or the career fields or the term that you're applying for. So if you're feeling uncertain about something, just submit it and we'll talk about it during the interview process with the admissions team. Okay. And then we do have and that's it. So, we have another Insider Talk coming up tomorrow if y'all are interested, but it's on a different subject. You can find that on our events page. Let me stop sharing screen here and I will go back to all of our questions. Thanks for hearing me out on that. And if you have any questions about the program, you can of course chat me during this. And I will answer all questions. So let's get to the questions back for Jen then. I'm just scrolling up to the top. Um, so I think we answered Jessica's question about organizational softwares for scheduling, etc. Um, and then Jocelyn said, how do you organize your communication between so many different working teams?
That's a good question. I use Outlook Search a lot, especially if it's something that basically I have a manager kind of in between me and a production executive on each show. So we're kind of like working in step to make sure that proper procedures are done for each show. And it's happened multiple times where we'll ask each other like, "Hey, did you do this?" And we're like, "I'm not sure," and we'll just like go or we'll use Copilot to kind of like make sure. But for the most part, it's just like remembering, which sounds like a silly answer, but it's just like, remembering who's on what show and what you've done. I also use pen and paper a lot too. So I have a notebook where I'm just every day I write down like a to-do list and I'm like flipping back and forth and making sure um, everything gets done.
And it's actually really effective, right? Because there's like so many things on different softwares and here and there. It's hard to keep up with all the tasks, and sometimes just like writing down what you got to do for the day is the best way to go for it. Um,
Yeah.
Kenyatta asked, in what ways do writers and writer rooms have to cater their ideas or scripts towards popular opinion? And how willing is Paramount to take risk when it comes to pieces of work?
That's a really good question. So the process is kind of like, we'll have different drafts of a script, and the first draft might just go to the creative development team, and like probably my department. And we get a first look for budget reasons. If we get a script that's like, oh, there's 800 extras and like a big helicopter explosion, like we're gonna be like, hey, wait a second, like where's this money coming from? But creative and development will kind of like take a look and see if there's anything that needs to be further explored story wise. And then the next draft will go to like our legal teams and clearance teams and standards and practices. And that's kind of where they'll send back notes being like, hey, you wrote so and so drinks out of a Starbucks coffee cup. And there'll be notes like, oh, we need to change that, or actually we're gonna do a product placement with them. So like that's great. Make sure there's more of that. Um, and I feel like for the most part, there's an understanding, like with the creative process. What the clearance lawyers are more on the lookout for is like, are we gonna get sued for this? So for the most part, the notes are like not that crazy. Um, and if anything, it's like more of an integration. Like I said, if there's any product placement or trade out agreements, those kinds of things are actually like encouraged.
Cool. And second question by Kenyatta, how does one get noticed by Paramount? Be it getting into the writers' rooms, do cold emails still work? What would you recommend? What are some of the processes? I guess from a writer's perspective is what Kenyatta is asking. What are some ways that people get noticed and how do they get into working for a company like Paramount?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of interesting because of the production companies that we work for are really the people who are the ones looking for the resumes and hiring. There will be a case every once in a while where if I get a resume that I want to pass along, I'll pass it along to the team, but it's like there's an understanding that I'm like, no pressure. I'm just sending you resumes. So it's really just kind of like using production job boards and using network connections to try and find those writers rooms. Like what's the plural? Um, because for the most part, like you won't know what you're writing for when you're applying for these jobs, because usually it's like very I don't want to say secretive, but like they're not going to use Emily in Paris for a job board. They're going to use like a code name, or they'll just write like, we're hiring for generic scripted drama or comedy. So it's kind of like um, you won't know if you're interviewing or sending your resume for a Paramount show or a Netflix show or, whatever, just because they're not going to write in a job board, oh, this is for Emily in Paris from Paramount TV Studios. So I'd say like network connections is your best bet, and then keeping an eye out for job boards. I know when I was looking for jobs and hiring, I used like Staff Me Up and Mandy and even like Facebook, which sounds so antiquated, but there's a lot of community Facebook production groups, especially for like low budget or commercial, if you're looking to just get your foot in, like to get some set experience.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's actually really helpful because I mean it's just and I think that probably, things get easier as your career moves forward, right? You have more connections with different production houses. They might just call you back and say, "We love the last work that you did." So this stage of your career is the hardest to get opportunities because you're, fresh out of university, you don't have a lot of experience on your resume, you don't have a lot of connections, so it can feel just exponentially difficult. But definitely keep pushing forward and keep, nurturing the network that you have because it will pay off. It will pay off over time. It will get easier. It will be much more comfortable for you to find those types of roles and positions. Liv asked, given that it's a busy, dynamic role, what does giving and receiving feedback look like in your team and communications?
That's an interesting question. It's a little complicated for me right now. This is me getting real, very real, but like during the merger, it's kind of hard to get feedback, mostly because like they're still trying to figure out like what the reporting structure is. So like me personally, I'm just doing my own thing, making sure I get my work done. And like, keeping up to date with, the different managers and VPs and stuff and making sure I'm visible per se, and I'm available for more work. Um, when I first started this role, I had an amazing manager who really cared about my progress. And he was amazing in that, he knew I wanted a certain title and I wanted to be staff. I actually started as a freelancer. And he was able to like stick up for me and push for that kind of transition. And he was constantly giving me feedback and asking me if I'm enjoying what I'm doing and is there anything I wanted to learn and that kind of stuff. So I'll say my experience right now is a little different, but we're going through a merger, so it's all right.
Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, I think at this point you're just looking to keep your head down and keep getting the work done until you have more clarity, right? It's int it's interesting. Jessica asked, what are some entry-level positions in the realm of production coordination?
Um, that's a good question. I think it kind of depends on if you're looking to have set experience or not. You could go more of like a project coordinator office intern route, or if you really do want to be on set, just taking any PA job that you find. Um, I think it kind of depends on like where you want to go with that.
And
Um,
how would you suggest making how would you suggest making connections to make it in the industry? Catherine asked.
yeah, so I say this in all my industry sessions is that like I'm not like a network event person. I'm not really gonna go to parties or or dinners or anything. What I like to do is just really nurture the connections with whatever I'm doing at the moment. If that's, an internship, it's trying to meet everyone that I interact with, trying to interact there, or um, for example, like my current position, it'll be reaching out to people in other departments, being like, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. Um, if I have one person who's in finance but handles like residual payments. So that's like making sure all the deliverables match up with like what people are actually getting paid. And it sounds like maybe that sounds boring, but to me that's kind of interesting. So I'm reaching out being like, hey, do you want to get coffee? Do you want to just, meet up real quick? And I'm more comfortable with like one-on-one, conversations and trying to get time with people, whether they're, my level in a different department or higher up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think those networking events that we all imagine as networking is just such a tiny piece of networking. Like the real deal is like those coffee chats, like getting to know people one on one, getting to know what things exist, asking for advice and support, providing, something back in return for them in terms of time or effort, right? And those are the things that really pay off over time. So I think the main key is to get your foot in the door at any place, and then begin utilizing your work ethic that they can see and those relationships and willingness to say, hey, let's grab coffee, let's meet, let's chat for 20 minutes to build relationships that will end up being fruitful for you in the future, as opposed to being like, I need a job. What connections do I have? Like, it won't work that way. It will never work that way. It needs to be something that's pre-nurtured, for you to be able to, have the payoff later. So, that's a good kind of motivator to be like, hey, if you have some people around you that that work in the industry, start getting coffee with them, start getting coffee, start asking them questions, asking them for advice. And don't ask for a job, just ask them for advice and support. Um, how do you deepen the connections to level up at the job you want? I think that you kind of answered that just now. Like, you're going to grab coffees with people that work within the same company as you, asking questions, just building relationships, is important. Any tips to make your resume stand out, maybe specifically within the field of production? As you're looking for resumes, what are things that, you said every once in a while you'll pass a resume along, like, are those people that you know and so you feel like you want to share their resume forward, or are they resumes that are standing out for a different reason?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes, like if I'm just talking about my current job, sometimes it's, a recommendation from like a production team on one of my current series. Um, and they're all amazing and I love them. So if they're recommending them, I'm kind of passing along, I'm paying
Yeah.
it forward. Some of them are people who will reach out to me on LinkedIn and they are asking for like a one-on-one, and I've met with them and talked with them. I would like try not to, you know, pass along anyone. So I kind of get a feel for them and see if they'd be a good fit for, whatever I'm passing along. In terms of like when I was in a position where I was reviewing resumes, um, there are two things that I kind of looked out for. The first one is if you didn't have a lot of experience, but you put in some things that were like extracurricular activities or like anything that would tell me kind of like who you are. I looked for that. For production, some people are surprised to hear this, but if you have service industry or restaurant experience, I feel like there's a lot of transferable skills there for being on set. And I can tell that you're tough and you can handle it. Um, and then the other thing is if I see someone who kind of knows um, the format that some production managers look for, which is uh, like obviously this is hard when you're first starting out, but once you start getting set experience, you can kind of list your resume almost as like credits. So you don't have to have a full job description for each, gig. So that's how I can kind of tell that someone's at least has a little bit of experience in that they know they can just kind of list their credits out and be like, I was a PA on this commercial. I was an intern for this music video, project, even if it's like student films and stuff. Just kind of being able to see that format. I'm like, oh, okay, they know they've sent their their resume around to some production managers.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice, um, you mentioned like just making sure that even if you've had like work that is not related to the field that you put it down, right? I think that's so important that you have transferable skills. Remember that when people are looking at resumes, like they're not meeting somebody, right? They're oftentimes just looking at a piece of paper with text on it, and it's really hard to make that stand out. So, you know, they're going to want to see that you have the experience. That means it's transferable, that they don't need to train, hours and hours and hours to get you up to speed. And then they're going to want to see that, hey, this is a personality that we like to work with also, because at the end of the day, you're having to make a team gel and make people work well together. Um, so sometimes some of those things that are more about yourself, your hobbies, things that you like to do outside of what you're doing, help to speak to that a lot. And of course, an interview or a connection helps to speak to that even more. But sometimes you need that before that stage. Um, let's do one more question. And I'm sorry, we'll run out of time here because um, there's so many good questions. And what I would do is, after this, I'll put my LinkedIn and Jen, I'll put your LinkedIn as well here just so that people can connect. But if you have questions for me, I won't speak to Jen, but if you have questions for me, please feel free to message me after on LinkedIn. I always get to all the questions that people send me. So anything career related or resume related or things like that, always happy to answer at any point. Justin said, what's the difference between the work a PA does and the work an intern does?
That is an awesome question. So if I'm talking from like my current position, which is kind of more of like a corporate office type job, and we have had, production interns before, um, I would say it's definitely a level of security too, because a lot of what we do is confidential information. So there might be some things that someone who's on staff might, I don't want to say get to do, but have exposure to, versus like an intern where it's like we're trying to teach like basic skills too. So we would definitely ask for help with like um, doing research on certain shows, or building a comparison, grid, something like that. Um, and getting to sit in calls for sure. If they're interested in a certain area, we'll make sure that they're in certain calls, but also like me as a coordinator, I kind of have to keep my eye on like which calls they join. Again, just for like confidential information. Um, and yeah, PA, at least in my current position, a PA would help more with like the actual coordination of project management. They might help me build an internal contact sheet and distribution grid. So like, it sounds really boring, but like basically all of the internal departments and like what production documents they get from the team. So I might ask a PA help with doing that just because it is nitty gritty, but it is like a little bit more involved. And they get like a little bit of a better taste on like what actually like it goes into project managing these shows. Um, I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, that's helpful. Um, and thanks for answering that. We have so many good questions here that we won't be able to get to. So unfortunately the time is running out. I want to just leave a few things for all of you here and then we'll let me leave it here before I kind of do the wrap up. Um, but just a few things. First of all, please make sure to apply for the program. I just left our website there. Remember that February 10th is the deadline. If you're looking to, do something for the summer, just go ahead and put in your application. There's no cost to apply. And then we can talk about next steps and see if this is something that might be right for you. I'm also putting my LinkedIn here. Feel free to connect with me, build your connections, build your network. Go ahead and like message me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to answer, as I mentioned. And then I'm also putting Jen's, LinkedIn here. You can connect as well. So, point is build your network out, get some common connections with other people. This is how it starts, is just from this type of relationships. I also just wanted to shout out and say thanks to some of our participants, also Abel, Alexandra, for joining us here for the chat. I probably didn't get everybody. There might be somebody I missed. But anyway, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time for the session. I really appreciate it. I guess I would say like any final words of advice, anything that you think would be like if you wanted somebody to take like one piece away from this as they're thinking about getting their career started within production, is there anything that you would kind of leave everybody with?
Yeah, now I feel like I need to come up with like a tagline or something. Um,
No
say
pressure, no
yes,
pressure. No, just kidding.
say yes to everything. Any gig you get offered, you want to get your foot in the door. Say yes to everything and be curious.
Awesome. Yes, so everything. Be curious. I love that. Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for joining the session, having great questions. It makes for a fun session always. Hope you all have a wonderful evening or day, depending on which time zone you're in. Or I know one of you was in the UK, and I'm so sorry that you're spending your 3 in the morning on this, but thanks for joining. And yeah, it was great to have you all in here. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.